Caitlin Clark's exemplary rookie campaign with the Indiana Fever has cemented her legacy, but her teammates' overseas road has been less than expected. Fans and followers are worried about it after her teammates' brother's plea for composure has caught the eyes of basketball fans. So, what was going on with that key player's career? Clark's Fever teammate, Nalisa Smith, was released from the Zhejiang Golden Bulls of the Women's Chinese Basketball Association, WCBA, making what could prove to be a major move in her professional career. Just months after she signed with the Zhejiang Golden Bulls in October 2024, the team decided to part ways with Smith. Many are wondering what drove this release and what it could mean for Smith's career. During her stay in China, Smith showed impressive performance. She did a double-double in one of the recent games, where she scored 25 points and got 10 rebounds, thereby proving herself worthy of the job. Despite the impressive numbers, her time with Zhejiang was not without controversy, though. Before her release, Smith was involved in a physical altercation during a preseason game. A shoving exchange and ball-throwing incident with an opponent also saw 7 technical fouls handed out during the match. During the WNBA offseason, Nalisa Smith, the number 2 pick in the 2022 WNBA draft, joined the Zhejiang Golden Bulls. Her background as an outstanding player was apparent in her impressive stats and on-court play. However, Smith struggled with the Indiana Fever in 2024. Smith's position with the Indiana Fever has become increasingly tenuous. She averaged only 24.8 minutes of playing time per game, with scoring falling to 10.6 points, 7.1 RPG, a decline from her previous seasons. With these factors, and the recent release from Zhejiang, her future with the Fever is in question. Smith's future in the WNBA is complicated by several factors. She has come in for criticism for her defensive performance. Additionally, other WNBA teams, including the Fever, have had to build around other players. And that has made it hard for Smith to earn a starting spot. Smith's career could go in many directions looking forward. Perhaps she could take an international career and have a larger role and more time to grow. Or, Smith may have to change her mode for remaining in the WNBA by settling into a bench role and showing she is willing to continue to improve her defensive fundamentals. Given her current standing in the Indiana Fever, that puts Smith at a critical juncture in her decision on her future in basketball. Her family and fans' support and strategic decisions along her career path will be crucial as she begins to navigate her legacy in the professional basketball. The Indiana Fever did a fantastic job of going from one of the least appealing to one of the most compelling WNBA franchises in the span of a year. Of course, this is largely owed to them drafting Caitlin Clark in the 2024 WNBA draft, which turned them into a playoff contender plus the most popular team in the league by a wide margin. It has also turned the Fever into a desired destination for WNBA free agents, as WNBA insider and Chicago Sun-Times reporter Annie Costable conveyed in a January 4 article. Expect the Liberty, Lynx, Aces and Fever to run the free agency table and pick off the league's top talent, Costable wrote. Those first 3 teams are obvious because they're the 3 best teams in the league. The Fever, however, are the most intriguing, especially when it comes to Dallas Wings superstar Sato Sabally. In a January 7 article, Costable wrote, "There is an understanding around the league that Sabally will be on the move after the Wings make her a core player this weekend, when GMs can begin sending out qualifying offers and core tags. What's unclear is where she'll end up." She later added, "The Fever are the most intriguing prospective landing spot for Sabally, considering the lineup they already have in place. If the Fever's front office is able to re-sign guard Kelsey Mitchell and secure Sabally, the team would become a title contender overnight." This is far from the first time Indiana and Sabally have been connected, as the Fever's fans have been trying to recruit her for months now. But this is the first time an insider like Costable has linked the two sides. And while she seems to be speculating, Costable has a penchant for being correct about these things. The WNBA coaching carousel finally came to a stop before the holiday season, as the Dallas Wings and Washington Mystics announced new hires on December 23. Now that every team has a head coach, if not yet a full coaching staff, it's time to evaluate their directions heading into the 2025 season. For now, we'll exclude the 5 teams, the Las Vegas Aces, Minnesota Lynx, New York Liberty, Phoenix Mercury and Seattle Storm, that didn't make head coaching changes, but rest assured, there will be more to come later in the offseason. Atlanta Dream, Carl Smesko. Ceiling, win a first-round playoff series. The Dream regressed last season, specifically on offense, after a 19-win campaign in 2023. A team with two perimeter stars in Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray should generate better offense. It was last in the league in offensive rating in 2024, and the addition of Smesco, one of the more creative minds in college basketball, seems like the right move to help Atlanta get over the hump. That doesn't solve the inherent problem of the Dream's overall talent. For all of Howard's gifts, she has yet to demonstrate she is on par with the league's MVP candidates, and Atlanta doesn't have many plus shooters. However, a more efficient offensive system combined with growth from Howard and Gray should at least put the Dream in contention to win a playoff series if it all breaks right. Chicago Sky, Tyler Marsh. Chicago might have made the playoffs a year ago had Angel Reese not missed the end of the season with an injury, so a postseason berth isn't exactly a stretch. However, the Sky don't seem to be rushing the process with Marsh, who is 37 and had never been a head coach. Chicago can prioritize the long term with Marsh's player development focus. The Sky own their first-round picks for the next 2 seasons, putting little pressure on making the playoffs right away. They can even afford to pick projects in the upcoming WNBA drafts, knowing Marsh will help them reach their potential, if not immediately. Connecticut Sun, Rashid Mazian. After 6 straight seasons of advancing to the WNBA semifinals, it's safe to bet on Connecticut reaching that ceiling again but not breaking through. The Sun made the most interesting offseason hire by bringing in Mazian, who was the 2023-24 EuroLeague Coach of the Year and led Belgium to a Eurobasket gold medal in 2023. He is not a known quantity like other WNBA coaches, all of whom either have long domestic NCAA resumes or served as WNBA assistants, which could produce some surprises in Connecticut. However, it's hard to believe that a roster with the same spacing issues and frontcourt redundancies can be a championship contender. Ideally, the Sun will take a different direction this offseason with Alyssa Thomas, Brianna Jones and DeWanna Bonner entering free agency. However, the front office's public comments suggest it will run it back, and that once again makes Connecticut a playoff lock regardless of who the coach is. Dallas Wings, Chris Coklanes. This is the hardest team to evaluate heading into the offseason because so many questions need to be answered. The Wings won the top overall pick, but will that result in Paige Bueckers coming to Dallas? Will Sato Sabally try to force her way out in free agency? The Wings can core her, but that hasn't stopped stars in the past. Can Chris Coklanes, who has been prepared for this job by Kurt Miller, make an instant impact, particularly on defense? Or will he perform more like a rookie head coach? Best case scenario, with Arika Gunbowale, Sabally and Bueckers performing at their peaks, and a competent defense under Coklanes, Dallas could be in the WNBA semifinals and make more noise. Even as the worst team in the league in 2024, the Wings still beat the Lynx twice, convincingly. But the bottom could drop out just as easily as it did this season, leaving Dallas out of the postseason. Golden State Valkyries, Natalie Nikasi. The Valkyries gave every indication that they intend to be competitive in their inaugural season to create a winning culture and adhere to owner Joe Lacob's timeline of becoming a champion within 5 years. That extends to hiring Nikasi, who has never been in a rebuilding situation in her NBA and WNBA coaching career. During the expansion draft, Golden State selected several immediate contributors. Without a star, at least not yet before free agency, the Valkyries don't have the upside to make noise in the playoffs, but it wouldn't be surprising if they played hard enough to advance to the postseason. There is an argument that Golden State would be better off earning a lottery pick in 2026 to build for the future. However, that doesn't seem to be the mantra of this front office. Indiana Fever, Stephanie White. Indiana wouldn't have fired Christy Sides, a coach who led the Fever to the 3rd best offense in the league and a top 6 net rating in 2024, if the organization didn't have high hopes for 2025. Caitlin Clark was already a first-team All-WNBA player as a rookie, with her and 2-time All-Star Aaliyah Boston anchoring both ends. Indiana can compete with anyone, and the Fever will have the cap space to bring in another impact contributor at the forward spots. White was the 2023 Coach of the Year and a few possessions away from coaching the Sun to the WNBA Finals in 2024. With an MVP candidate, more stars, depth and a high-level head coach, Indiana shouldn't settle for anything less than the mountaintop this season. Los Angeles Sparks, Lynn Roberts. After 4 years of missing the playoffs, firing Kurt Miller indicated that the Sparks could no longer stomach a slow rebuild. It would be a failure for the franchise to end up in the lottery again, especially since Los Angeles does not control its first-round draft pick in 2026. That puts a lot of pressure on Roberts, who has had longer runways in previous positions. She'll have to acclimate to a new league quickly for the Sparks to achieve their goals. On paper, Los Angeles has enough talent to make the playoffs, but the Sparks have not had a healthy roster over the past few seasons. If availability breaks in their favor, they should end up back in the postseason. Until another player steps up as an all-star to complement De'Erica Hamby, Cameron Brink might have been on track before tearing her ACL last June. The playoffs are the upper limit for this team. Washington Mystics, Sydney Johnson. Unlike Los Angeles, Washington has expressed patience for a long rebuild and wants to create a new foundation through the draft, which means the playoffs would be a worst-case scenario for the Mystics. The hiring of Johnson supports that timeline, as his coaching experience mostly comes from men's college and 3x3 before 1 year as an assistant with the Chicago Sky. He'll need some time to grow into a quality WNBA head coach, and Washington can afford to wait. Expect a fire sale from the Mystics this offseason of veterans like Brittany Sykes, Stephanie Dolson and Carly Samuelson as the franchise pivots to its next era.